Manx Radio's Update with Beth Espey.
Well, first, good evening. How has your Monday been? Well, it's still light outside, so spring is in the air. And coming up, it's your daily news roundup. Everything you need to know in under 30 minutes. And tonight, that includes with tidal conditions being blamed for the cancellation of 2 sailings tomorrow. We'll hear how the Manxman was affected at the weekend. We'll also hear more about Kroger's decision not to proceed with its plans to extract gas from the island's seabed. And a rising Manx road racer looks set to take on the Northwest 200. We'll also keep an eye on the latest weather, the traffic and the travel as well. And as ever, we'd love to hear from you. You can text 166 177 or you can email studio@manxradio.com. We'll start with a news headline roundup with Simon Fastamai.
Ramsey Swing Bridge will stay closed to traffic for another 2 months. The Department of Infrastructure says recent inspections have revealed other areas of concern within the deck structure. It's hoped repairs will be carried out as soon as possible, subject to material availability. The bridge will remain open to pedestrians and cyclists throughout and will operate as normal to allow boats to access the inner harbour. The Infrastructure Minister says a perfect combination of very big spring tides and high atmospheric pressure caused Manxman to ground over the weekend. While manoeuvring, the vessel became trapped in mud and was unable to continue until the tide rose sufficiently. A Kroger shareholder claims government has made it impossible for the company to progress with its plans to extract gas from the Isle of Man's seabed. Its licence expired on Friday when an application for an extension couldn't be agreed with the Department of Infrastructure. Minister Michelle Hayward says it was Kroger's decision not to proceed with its plans. February in the Isle of Man was drier, windier and duller than average. Statistics from the Met Office show there were 70.6 hours of sunshine, which is only around 15 hours below average. The warmest day was the 20th, when the mercury rose to a dizzying 11.5 Celsius. International headlines. The Prime Minister's reassured MPs the US won't be withdrawing military support for Ukraine after an explosive row between Donald Trump and Vladimir Zelensky. Sir Keir Starmer's told the Commons America is vital in securing peace in Europe. A large blue police tent has been set up near Stoke-on-Trent as officers investigate the discovery of human remains. They were found by a member of the public in a hilly wooded area near Festival Park yesterday. And police in Germany no longer think there's a wider danger to the general public after a car was driven into a group of people in Mannheim. At least one person died and a suspect, who's reportedly German, has been arrested. And those are the headlines at 3 minutes past 5.
Thank you very much indeed, Simon. Now the weather brought to you by Manx Glass and Glazing. Mostly cloudy and largely dry into this evening and tonight. Light to moderate southwest winds. They'll increase moderate to fresh overnight. Minimum temperatures will be around 10 Celsius. And tomorrow, dry and bright. Variable amounts of cloud throughout the morning. More in the way of sunny spells in the afternoon. And mainly fresh southwest wind. That will become strong in the afternoon. And a top temperature tomorrow of around 9. And looking ahead to Wednesday, a pretty similar picture, generally dry and bright, top temperatures around 10. Sunset this evening will be just before 6, sunrise tomorrow morning just after 7.
Manx Glass and Glazing can supply and install single, double and triple glazing. Call 674 573 or visit the showroom on the Snugborough Trading Estate.
Simply income protection from Kestrel Insurance. A choice of benefits. Simple underwriting and peace of mind with a regular income for up to 2 years if you're unable to work due to illness or injury. Kestrel Insurance is registered with the Isle of Man Financial Services Authority.
Carpetland, the carpet specialist with the island's best value carpets in stock, often fitted within a week. Furnitureland, for 3-piece suites, dining and living room furniture, and a selection of amazing beds. Carpetland and Furnitureland, West Street, Ramsey.
Making life easier with Manx Mobility at the top of Summer Hill. Are you looking for a stair lift? Look no further with Which Magazine's #1 recommended stair lifts. Now provided by Manx Mobility. Access BDD stair lifts. Call us today on 200 680. The exclusive Karcher store is open with thousands of products, accessories and parts in stock. For Karcher sales and service, Hersham Electrical, Shipyard Industrial Estate, Ramsey.
You're listening to Update here on Manx Radio. It's coming up to 5:05. Well, tidal conditions in Douglas Harbour have been blamed for the cancellation of 2 sailings tomorrow. The steam packets confirmed that the 1:45pm crossing from Heysham to Douglas and the return sailing at 7:45 are both off, and it follows a rather tricky weekend for the company, as Tessa Hawley reports.
If there's anything you can be assured of on the Isle of Man, it's that when there's a problem with the boat, you'll quickly know about it. And on Saturday night, we certainly did, when the Manxman got stuck quite literally in the mud whilst trying to berth in Douglas. The steam packet blamed the issue on a low spring tide and high atmospheric pressure, which had combined to cut the tide much further than predicted. Managing Director Brian Thompson apologised to passengers who were affected by the delay and the knock-on impact to other sailings, and thanked the crew for handling the tricky situation. When the vessel did manage to successfully dock, the company said divers were going to perform a precautionary underwater inspection prior to it going back out again. Now, following consultation and checks of internal spaces, that inspection was deemed unnecessary before the Manxman went back to Heysham. The Isle of Man Ship Registry and the Manxman's Classification Society have also been informed. The steam packet adds it will be carrying out a review with all parties to ensure there isn't a repeat of what happened on Saturday, in particular conversations with the Department of Infrastructure. Now, the Minister of that department, Michelle Hayward, joined us live on Manx Radio Breakfast this morning and confirmed a capital dredge, where specialist dredgers are brought into the harbour, hasn't been conducted for around 2 decades.
We know it's a soft bottom down there. We do know it's an issue, and I am meeting with officers this morning. There was lots of correspondence backwards and forwards, and I've said I need an immediate fix. What can we do with the equipment that we have, and what do we need to do to get a longer fix on it? And I think it's likely to mean that we will be getting that capital dredge programme underway. But it's one of those things that, at times when money is tight, that everyone thinks, oh, well, we dredged it last year, it's okay, we'll push it away and it'll probably be okay. And actually, I think we're probably getting to the position that we've shown absolutely with our friends at the steam packet that it's not probably okay at the moment.
That is Dr. Michelle Hayward ending that report there from Tessa about the issues the Manxman experienced in Douglas Harbour over the weekend. We're going to hear more from Dr. Hayward in a moment. It is 7.5 minutes past 5. But first, a Kroger shareholder claims government has made it impossible for the company to progress with its plans to extract gas from the Isle of Man's seabed. Its licence expired on Friday after failing to agree an extension with the Department of Infrastructure. Minister Michelle Hayward says it was Kroger's decision not to proceed with the plans, but Chris Robertshaw says the DOI put 3 impossible roadblocks in Kroger's way.
The first one is compensation. Because Ørsted was on the field first, it had sort of senior rights, as it were, to Kroger's position. And that included the need for the parties to agree compensation should there be any conflict in interest between Kroger and Ørsted. However, DOI have insisted that process of compensation lies entirely in the hands of Ørsted. Kroger, for its part, has said no. It believes absolutely that the DOI should be applying best practice with regard to how compensation works. Best practice provides for any compensation to be determined by an independent valuer. Well, what the DOI wholly unreasonably expect Kroger to do is to enter into a compensation agreement with Ørsted defining whether or not there's agreement and how much it should be and when it should be paid. Well, of course, that and that alone would deny Kroger the opportunity to achieve appropriate levels of investment. The second roadblock is drilling regulations and legislation. It is totally impossible for Kroger to move forward unless there's a full set of drilling regulations and appropriate legislation in place. Kroger have been trying to get the Isle of Man government to put these drilling regulations and legislation in place for 6 to 7 years, and it still hasn't happened. And no investor would touch a project like this unless the company concerned had the appropriate drilling regulations and legislations in place. And the third one is all about timing, and the timing that Kroger are required to enter into to achieve both the appraisal well and the 3D seismic is ridiculously tight when compared to Ørsted's requirements. So at one end, you have Ørsted saying it wants a whole range of information from Krogger by December of 26. Krogger cannot provide that information unless it achieves its 3D seismic and its appraisal well, and it cannot go ahead with these until such time as government produces the regulations and legislation.
OK, so that was Chris Roberts-Shaw, who was speaking on Man in Line at lunchtime. But again, on Manx Radio's breakfast programme this morning, the Infrastructure Minister, Dr Michelle Haywood, responded to Krogger arguing that there were no drilling regulations or legal framework for their gas exploration projects.
Krogger knew when they took their licence what the legislative framework available in the Isle of Man at the time was, and they knew that that was the only hydrocarbon exploration licence that was in existence. They have also seen a detailed list of legislation that's needed from the DFE and DEFRA and from DOI perspectives, including timeframes. And we have put considerable resource into delivering that legislation as and when it's needed by Krogger as they progress through their project. So it's not fair to say that there is no prospect of there being legislation. We were working at pace, delivering the legislation as it would have been needed for them to do. There was nothing to stop them going and doing the seismic survey, and that's been the case since 2019 when they had their licence. They could have done that. The drilling regs were to follow, and we are working on those.
And why do you think they spent so long effectively dragging their heels with the seismic survey? Because they were trying to vary the licence to skip over that process. Then obviously that was pulled at the last minute. Why did that take so long?
I'm entirely not sure, because the licence came into existence on the 1st of January 2019. And so they had the potential then to agree what the window was that they can do. And DEFRA put some conditions around seismic only being done across the winter period because of the impact on marine life. But they could have commissioned a boat and come in and done the seismic in the back end of 2019, 2020. We know then that COVID hit, but what is absolutely true is that the oil and gas industry didn't stop working because of COVID. They were considered to be exempt jobs, and everyone carried on working. So they could have delivered that in 2021. They could have delivered it in 2022. We extended their licence, and we extended it again in April 22 to allow them to deliver it at the back end of 22 into 23, or in 23 into 24. And, you know, they just haven't gone and done that. And I'm not sure you'd have to ask the directors of Krogger why they didn't just get on with it when they could.
That is the Infrastructure Minister, Dr Michelle Haywood. She was speaking to Christian just after breakfast this morning. She did answer some of the questions on the breakfast programme, but there's a lot to that interview. You can hear the full-length interview as a podcast at manxradio.com. Now, homeowners on the Isle of Man are spending up to £150 more a month on their mortgages than those in the UK. This is according to advisors Financial Options, as the island's housing market continues to face issues. The news comes as locally owned provider Conister Bank has announced it's now able to offer mortgages over here. Well, Financial Options owner and business development manager Paul Chase has been reflecting on what the island's housing market is like at the moment.
Well, we're very busy. That always tells us that actually the housing market is doing pretty well. We're seeing an awful lot of clients come through the doors. People are buying at different price levels as well. So therefore, it does say that the market at the moment is quite healthy.
And what are some of the challenges for potential buyers here?
I think the key is the sort of purchase prices. They obviously have gone up over the last few years. Also is the limitation of the fact that we've only got 5 main lenders on the island as well. And you have to fit with their criteria and you have to accept their interest rates,
which are considerably higher here compared to, say, the UK. So why is that?
Well, various reasons. There's the element of scale. So obviously in the UK there's a lot more people arranging mortgages and a lot more providers with competition on that side of things as well. But ultimately the banks over here do get to set their own interest rates, and they do get to set what levels they're at. And given the fact that we have a limited pool of providers over here, I don't think the competition element is quite as strong as it may be in the UK. But basically the difference between the interest rates can be as much as up to sort of £100, £150 a month depending on what type of interest rate that you go with. Your mortgage is one of the biggest financial commitments you're ever going to make in your life, and certainly it takes a significant proportion of your income that you receive each month. So making sure that you get the best deal on the mortgage is always essential, which is why the financial options, we actually look around at all the banks and we're able to compare them for our clients, so we can basically see what each one is offering.
So, I mean, you're talking about sort of 100 to 150 pounds a month potentially difference, and that's just with the providers that we have here on the island. If you were in the UK, what kind of other options might you have?
Well, one of the things we're seeing a lot at the moment from our clients is there's a lot of headlines in the UK talking about sub 4% interest rates. Now, I'm afraid they're not available on the Isle of Man. They're available largely from the building society type lenders in the UK, which we just don't have here.
That is Paul Chase from Financial Options talking to Amy there. A lot of chatter about this on social media. If you go to our Facebook page, you can take part in the debate there. 5:15 now.
Manx Radio Travel, driven by Quayside Tyres and Service Centre.
So nothing reported on the police pages, so hopefully a smooth drive home for you this evening. We did hear Simon mention that the Ramsey Swing Bridge is going to stay shut to cars for another 2 months. If you're a pedestrian or on a bike, then you can go across it, but it is going to be shut for another 2 months to motorised vehicles. All looking okay down at the airport. And then the latest from the steam packet this evening, the Manxman is on its way back from Heysham, due to get into Douglas at around 6:20, heading out again at 9:25, so getting to Heysham in the early hours of the morning, and then coming back at 3:15. We know those 2 sailings, though, as we mentioned earlier, have been cancelled tomorrow because of the tidal conditions. That is the return from Heysham and the evening sailing out there as well.
Ask how you can spread the cost interest-free at Quayside.
It's 16 minutes past 5 now. Well, with the Isle of Man still waiting to discover if planning consent will be granted for 2 significant wind power projects, both on and offshore, DEFRA in the UK has launched a pilot scheme aimed at reducing the number of birds killed after colliding with wind turbines by painting them black. Simon has more details for us.
It's estimated that thousands of birds are killed after colliding with wind turbine blades in the UK alone each year. A recent academic study carried out in Norway confirmed what many people feared, that the death toll among the bird population was a significant factor that needed to be addressed. In response, DEFRA in the UK has launched a 4-year pilot programme to reduce the risk of collisions by painting the turbines black. It's reported that wind turbines will sport a range of paint jobs. Some will be completely black, others may have black stripes, or simply be given black tips to their blades. The job of painting them will be significant in itself. The last official figure for the number of wind turbines in the UK was collated in October 2023. It came out at just under 2,700. That figure is thought to have grown considerably. Scientific studies suggest that giving the turbines a black paint job could cut bird strikes by 70%. Even Donald Trump has expressed concerns over the potential toll on bird life exacted by wind farms. He's seemingly less concerned, though, about the potential downside of pumping oil.
I just opened the window to get that bird noise there. That is Simon Richardson reporting on the wind turbines being painted black to avoid birds. A bill to change how local authorities work is looking to strengthen the terms of mandatory functions which they are required to carry out. Chris Thomas, MHK for Douglas Central, says under potential new terms, the way bylaws are made, pensions are regulated and how expenses are managed would be updated. But he says some new clauses from one of his fellow backbenchers, Ramsey MHK Laurie Hooper, have caused concern.
So the bill is about tidying up lots of aspects. It's been well consulted on twice over that decade. I'm not at all worried about that. There is a bit of concern in Peel Town Commissioners that they're imposing large authority conditions in respect of freedom of information and minutes that you wouldn't normally have in a parish council across. There's that issue from the past. But it's this new clause that I think the local authorities have only noticed at the last minute. Some of the commissioners haven't even had a meeting since it was introduced into the House of Keys. And they certainly don't know what it's all about. To be frank, I called the amendment that Mr Hooper brought bold, perhaps even brilliant, But I do think that he's already caused a furore, and a more mature approach would have been to engage and to get some clarity and to get some buy-in from all the other people that would have been affected. My amendments improve it. So, for instance, it's not only the direct authority that's affected that now needs to be consulted. All affected local authorities need to be consulted. Also, I amended it such that it's completely clear that it means exactly what I just said it means, because originally just the verb mandate was used without any definition of what mandate was. But still, local authorities provide functions under lots of different government departments. It's only Department of Infrastructure that has this power, but conceivably Department of Infrastructure could change from a power to a duty to do something on a service under another government department. So I joked in the House of Keys that conceivably could be forced to prepare the landing pad for the Manx lunar mission under this legislation if you read it in a certain way.
That is MHK for Douglas Central, Chris Thomas. Now it is 5:20. He made his TT debut last year, and now rising Manx road racer Joe Yeardsley looks set to make his maiden appearance at the Northwest 200 this year as well. The 2023 Senior Manx Grand Prix winner says it's one of the many road racing events he's got his eye on in this season.
I'm massively excited. It's been something I've wanted to do kind of since I started and gained a national licence, but living in the Isle of Man and finances and boats and running bikes, I've kind of had to prioritise on other events. 2022 was about the Southern 100, 2023 was about the Manx Grand Prix, and last year was my first TT, so I've had other things to kind of prioritise on. However, now I've done my TT, which is the pinnacle, that gives me a bit more opportunity to try and do some other stuff that I've always wanted to do. So yeah, first time at the Northwest this year with riding for an Irish team that's based over there and all the bikes already over there. It's opened up a few doors to kind of make it all happen. On Ireland this year, I'll be doing the Southern 100 again, the TT, and obviously the Manx Grand Prix. Other than that, we'll be focusing on the meetings in Ireland, potentially 7 over there alone if the 3 are back on in the south of Ireland.
And then when it comes to racing in Ireland, the south, there's been some potentially positive signs that there could be a bit of a revival of some of the meetings in Southern Ireland. If they were to come about, how beneficial do you think it'll be for someone like yourself and other riders as well to keep getting more road racing practice?
Yeah, I think it's massive. I think it's massive for all the competitors and also the local towns and villages that all these meetings go on in. And I don't know the ins and outs of who's behind it and who's the ones that have now, brought it back on track. All I can say is whoever is behind it has done an amazing job. I know they haven't had an easy couple of years with insurances and all this sort of thing, but I think everyone's behind having more meetings on in Ireland and, more meetings on the calendar. And hopefully this year I can have my first taste of it and be there to support it.
That is Joe Yeardsley talking to Rob Pritchard. We wish him all the very best for this season. 5:22. Sitting in for Rob this week is Darren Timpson. Darren, lots of sports news on the go.
Yes, good evening. Starting with athletics, Isle of Man's recently awarded Veteran Sports Person of the Year, Krista Kane, won the Brighton Half Marathon on Sunday. Kane was one of 10,000 participants in the event, but she led the way in the ladies category to complete the race in just over 76 minutes. The long-distance runner was awarded the Veteran Sports Person of the Year only last Thursday and backed up her award with a great performance in Brighton. On to football, and FC Isle of Man manager has spoken about his team's playing style after their 2-1 loss to Burscough in the North West Counties Football League on Saturday. The Manx side slipped to 11th in the table and are now 12 points off the playoff spots with 8 games to go. However, the defeat at the weekend was the team's last away game of the season, and Paul Jones says they have had to adapt their playing style due to changes in the modern game.
We don't have players on the Isle of Man anymore that we see coming through that you can just batter the ball up front and hope to win goals from set plays and corners and long throws and second balls. Like that's not the sort of player that's coming through on the Isle of Man at the minute. So we're trying to play in a way that helps the club and to keep moving forwards. And that takes a bit of bravery on the ball and a bit more kind of technical knowledge and understanding about the game. When we move the ball quickly with quality and people are in the positions that we ask them to be in, and we don't take chances in wrong areas, and then we look a really, really good side. And for the play we had in the first half, they were creating the chances. That's where they came from. And I want us to really kind of demonstrate that we're moving forwards with that. And the goals we conceded today were sloppy again, and we just need to switch on a little bit better off the ball. That's the problem when you're trying to play a little bit more. The spaces are a bit bigger for the opposition at times if you don't look after it in the right way. And we get caught a little bit at times with that. Not very often, but today we did. When you lose an important player like Jack in the first 1 minute of the warm-up, was like Adelaide Bay's got a collarbone injury. Sam Baines got an injury that he had to come off just after half-time as well. Yeah, it feels like it was going to be one of those days, and it turned out to be, but, we had more than enough to get something out of the game. I thought we created some really good chances first half. We started the game really well. And then second half, we had lots of changes, lots of players not playing in their normal position, and we were just a bit ragged, and it was probably just for an away game too far.
Ravens manager Paul Jones. In the local leagues, Moran were confirmed as the first team to be relegated from the Men's Canada Life Premier League this season after defeat to St George's. The side needed to win to keep their hopes of staying in the division alive, but a 6-0 loss to relegation rivals cemented their fate. At the top end of the table, Corinthians missed a chance to close the gap to 1 point on league leaders Peel. The Douglas side lost to Rushden United while Peel were defeated by St Mary's. Lower down the divisions, Colby have been crowned champions of the Arden and Drogheda Combination 2. And in hockey, the finals have been confirmed for the cup competitions. The semi-finals took place on Saturday. In the Men's Cup, Valkers A will play Vikings A, while in the Ladies' Cup, Backers A face Castletown A. You can see the rest of the results on the Manx Radio website.
Thank you very much indeed, Darren. Now, just to let you know about an event that's happening tonight, it's for mothers on the Isle of Man. They are being offered help to get digitally savvy. This is a 6-week IT support programme. It's called Mum Tech, and it's been launched by the charity Love Tech, and it's really to help women manage online safety, social media, IT basics and digital banking as well. We were hearing about this on Manx Radio Breakfast earlier. So this session tonight is taking place between 6:30 and 8:30 at the Game Global's headquarters on Circular Road. If you want to find out more about it, you can go to manxradio.com. Well, that is all from tonight's programme. Thank you very much indeed for your company. Coming up next, it's Agenda with Phil Gaughan, and ahead of tomorrow's Legislative Council election, we're going to hear from the final candidate that we've interviewed about why they are standing. And if you are interested in the election tomorrow, we will be broadcasting that live on our AM 1368 and DAB channels. Of course, we'll bring you online the results of that election as soon as we have it. After Agenda tonight, Chris Kinley will be here with Greatest Hits. Then at 9, Ian Cottier brings us Time for Brass. And then Dave Moore will be with you from 10 with After Hours. Have a lovely evening. Try and enjoy some of that sunshine. You've got about half an hour or so, and we'll talk to you again tomorrow. Take care.